So today, we're going to dive into a really powerful story about hitting rock bottom and the tough journey back. It's all about a young man named Musa and his story, going from a life of just pleasure seeking to one with real meaning. It kind of forces us to ask a question that, let's be honest, many of us think about.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. Is there really a point of no return for us? Moose's journey gives us a pretty incredible take on that exact question. So let's get into it right from the start.
All right, so let's set the scene. Our story kicks off in this busy, vibrant town where we first meet Musa. And on the surface, this guy has it all. He's living a life that is completely 100% about chasing a good time. So who is this guy, Musa? Well, he was the guy everyone noticed. Good-looking, super confident, and without a doubt popular. But underneath all that charm was a huge problem. He was living his life totally for the moment, chasing pleasure with absolutely zero thought about what might happen tomorrow. You know, the wise elders in his community, they saw this coming a mile away. They tried to give him this simple but honestly profound piece of advice. Discipline protects your destiny. Respect yourself and others. It was basically a warning, right? That a life like his, without any guardrails, was heading for a crash. But Musa, yeah, he wasn't having any of it. He just completely blew off their advice. For him, life had one simple point: enjoyment. Things like discipline and responsibility, he saw those as just getting in the way of his fun. And, well, you can probably guess what happens next, right? A life that's built on such a shaky foundation, it's just not meant to last. And for Musa, reality came crashing down hard. And then, just like that, everything changed. Musa got seriously sick. He became weak, frail. He couldn't even work or take care of himself. The very body that he used for all his pleasure-seeking had basically turned on him, and his whole world was about to just fall apart. And I mean, the fall was steep. This visual really shows you just how dramatic it was. He went from being the popular guy to being completely and utterly lonely. All the praise he used to soak up was replaced by this awful feeling of shame. And that trademark confidence, it just vanished, leaving nothing but weakness behind. And here's where things get really tough for Musa, where he learns this incredibly painful lesson. All those friends that were always around during the good times, gone. All the people who used to praise his looks and his charm, they were nowhere to be found. He was completely alone with his sickness and his regrets. But you know, even in that complete darkness, a little bit of light managed to shine through. This was Musa's turning point. The one moment that was about to change the entire course of his life. So, while pretty much everyone else had just left him behind, one person showed up to see him. It was an old woman named Mama Rahima, and she was known all over town for her amazing wisdom and her kindness. She didn't see a lost cause, she just saw a young man who was hurting. And what she says to him, wow, it changes everything. She says, "My son, mistakes do not define your future unless you refuse to change. God gives everyone a second chance." This wasn't a lecture, it was just hope. And it was exactly what he needed to hear. And you know what? For the very first time, it's like he actually heard it. He started to reflect on his life, on all his careless choices, and this crushing weight of how much time he'd wasted just hit him. And right there, in that moment of clarity, he made a decision. He was going to change. So this decision, it wasn't just a thought. It was the first step on his long road to redemption. This wasn't about feeling sorry for himself. This was about taking action and building a brand new life from the rubble of his old one. So how'd he do it? Well, his journey really broke down into these 4 key steps. First, it started with that honest reflection. That led to the firm decision to actually change. Then he knew he had to seek forgiveness. And most importantly, he had to commit to a new way of living, one built on the very things he used to run from: discipline and respect. And he didn't just talk the talk, he really walked the walk. As soon as he got better, he didn't go back to his old ways. Nope. He started volunteering at a local youth center, using his own story as a kind of cautionary tale to help guide the next generation. And this right here, this shows you the huge shift in how people saw him. Before, people admired him for stuff that doesn't really matter: his looks, his charm. But now
Now they respected him for something so much deeper, his character.
And through this new path, Musa finally found what his old life of chasing temporary highs could never, ever give him: genuine fulfillment. His life, at last, had peace. It had meaning.
All right, so after all that, what's the big takeaway from Musa's incredible journey? Let's break down the key lessons that his story leaves us with.
Well, the story really boils down to a few powerful lessons for all of us. First, that no matter what, real change is always possible. Second, those elders, they were right all along. Discipline really does protect your future. Third, that the respect you get from other people, it really starts with respecting yourself. And finally, that our biggest mistakes can actually become our greatest teachers.
And this, right here, really gets to the heart of it all.
Musa learned that the pleasure he was always chasing was just a shadow. It wasn't real happiness. He found out that true, lasting happiness is built from things like self-control, responsibility, and just trying to make good choices. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Musa managed to turn his biggest regrets into his greatest strength. And it kind of makes you wonder, right? What mistake in your own life is just waiting to become your greatest lesson?